TheTotalGamer.com presents.
Good evening and welcome to episode 2 of Retro for the Win. I am your host this week, SuperDan88, and with me are my lovely friends, DanVanDam.
How you doing, folks?
And Viper29.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Right, first before we kick into Games of the Week, I'd like to thank everybody who listened and commented on last week's show. We do really appreciate it. And we'd also like to congratulate Tanuki KGA and the YouTube community for raising $142 for charity. Right, let's kick into it. Games of the Week, what's everybody been playing?
Final Fantasy 13.
And what do you think of it?
Pick it awesome. I highly recommend people pick it up. A lot of people probably don't want to spend $60, but this is something that I think you can get away with doing that. So,
how does it compare to earlier Final Fantasies?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Final Fantasy 12. This is a hell of a lot better than Final Fantasy 12, hands down.
That's good to hear. Danny?
What I've been playing all week is with my I've been playing Fallout 3. And let me add, it's very fucking glitchy. I mean, every single time I play it, I want to slam my head into a wall. Also, what I've been playing is the Twisted Tales of Spike McFang for the Super Nintendo. It's sort of like Zelda for the SNES. It's not practically on the same console, but it's sort of one of those underlooked games. It's obviously a little bit up there in price, but it's honestly a pretty interesting game. I've still got to do footage for, but yeah, I've been playing that, and I've also been playing Final Fantasy 13. However, I did kind of already cover it on another podcast. So, long story short, I'll just say I like the game a lot. The storyline's good, and that's all I'm really gonna say.
Cool, I guess that leaves me. This week I played Heavy Rain. I loved it. A funny story about Heavy Rain, when I was playing it, there's certain bits in the game that are very intense, kind of almost like a Saw movie kind of thing, where like you're kind of like you're in half like squeamish sort of mode. And as I was playing the game, it takes a lot of like finger controls. You're doing all of like the push square push XX and all of these stupid quick time events. And I felt like a tingling on my neck. And it's getting on that sort of season where I get moths in my bedroom. So I kind of brushed my neck thinking it was a moth, and it was gone. But I didn't see where it went. And I was playing again a bit more, and I felt it by my eye. And I think in my eye, and huge, I shit you not, huge spider just like fell off my head onto the floor, and I was just like, oh my god, this is like during an intense part of the game. And it's like, that was my Heavy Rain experience. And yeah, that's Heavy Rain for me. I've also started playing Time Hollow on Nintendo DS. It kind of plays like a digital graphic novel, sort of like Ace Attorney, Lux Pin kind of thing, but it's really weird because it's like a time thing. So like each episode's like things change. It's like if one event changes throughout the day, like everything will change. Like one girl, when she ran away because something happened that didn't happen beforehand, and everything just constantly keeps changing. Like your parents die in the first 10 minutes of the game. It's like, and the whole point of the game is to try and get your parents back by manipulating time. But yeah, that's what I've been playing on this week. Right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our main topic, which is retro revival and video game remakes. Catch you in a sec.
No little cinnamon gum freshens breath longer than Big Red.
So kiss a little longer, stay close a little longer, hold tight a little longer, longer with Big Red. That Big Red freshness lasts right through it. Your fresh breath goes on and on. While you chew it, say goodbye a little longer, make it last a little longer. Give your breath long-lasting freshness with Big Red.
And welcome back to our main topic, which is retro revival and video game remakes. Our first topic is about a game which holds true to a lot of people's hearts, and that is Bionic Commando Rearmed. And as I understand it, both Danny, Sean, and myself have all played Bionic Commando Rearmed, and I would like to hear your opinions on it versus the original, because in my opinion, the original, because I didn't play the original first, I played the remake first, and when I went back and played the original, I found the original to be very choppy, and the controls to be kind of like garbage, really. What do you guys think?
Well, first, I did not really play the Bionic Commando game up until more recent, more me being like 18, 19, 20 years old. That's why I really jumped into the game and looked at it and went, this is actually a pretty good game. I was shocked by it, and the controls for me, I don't know, they felt pretty good to me. Basically, control-wise for the newer game in comparison, though, I felt like it was, more of a push up. It was a better variety. It felt very, very good. It was sort of like a good sex partner, practically. Once you get in, you never stop. But no, it was pretty good darn controls as far as I'm concerned. Like, both games actually for me do have the best controls.
Yeah, Bionic Commando for the NES. That one was man, the controls on that were a little hard to get used to. But once I played Rearmed, it was like night and day. I mean, it was nice and smooth. I mean, things were just. I mean, it was just. I can't even explain it. It was that good. If nobody's picked it up, I really, really recommend it because it really does the original game justice. I mean, more so than anything.
What are your guys' opinions on the fact that Capcom chose to remake the game and not just like repackage it as it is, like say Sonic, like say Sega's doing with the Sonic and Genesis titles? The fact that they actually chose to go back to the game and fully remake it. What do you guys think of that?
Actually, with that particular with Bionic Commando and what they're doing, what Capcom's doing, I actually, I don't even I can't even say the word right, but they did something good. It was something that needed to be done because the original game, for a lot of people, the controls were really, like I said, the controls are hard to get used to. But once they remade it, I think they fixed all that in the new one. So,
well, when it comes to them re-releasing it, I felt like it was a good thing on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. When it comes to the Capcom releasing it on the Wii, I don't think the Wii could actually handle the game.
What do you think of them actually going out and remaking the game completely as opposed to just like putting like a ROM and an emulator together like what Sega have done with the Genesis collections?
Well, I think them re-releasing the game like that in a whole, I don't think that would be a totally good idea, or them emulating the game. I mean, yeah, if they do put the original game, I guess I could deal with it because I already own the cart and I'm not going to buy it if it's already have it. So practically in the long run, I think that a lot of people who only like the game, who are hardcore about it, would actually ever buy it. The rest of people will probably look at that and go, "What the fuck is this?"
What are you guys' opinions on the fact that Capcom chose to remake the NES game as opposed to remaking the arcade version, which is actually a prequel to the NES game?
Well, the arcade game, if anyone doesn't know what it is, it's practically like more of arcadesy style than the Bionic Commando series. It did not have no real honest plot other than, you're going to go do this and that, and it's really simplistic and very linear. So you just go through trees, you go through bases, blah, blah, blah. It was not a good idea to pick up this game and decide to remake it. With Bionic Commando Rearmed, when they went with the second version of the game, I felt like that was the best idea they could done with that because it was actually the most responsive game I felt for controls versus the arcade and the obvious Super Nintendo version.
Well, with that, let me see, the arcade version, I barely even played that, so I can't even comment on that. But as for them putting it together as like a remake or a ROM or whatever, that it depends, because like you said with Sega did that with the Genesis stuff. So I don't know. It's a hit and miss with me. I mean, it depends on what game it is. I mean, Bionic Commando, I really haven't, I haven't really played the NES one, too much because, like I said, the controls. But then again, not the arcade, excuse me, the 360, and I believe it's on PSN if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's a lot better.
Good. Next, I guess another franchise that hasn't been exactly remade but has been kind of rejuvenated is the Mega Man series. A couple of years ago, Mega Man 9 came out with the whole 8-bit look and feel, and it kind of wowed people and showed people that a new game can come out and still look like an old game and still sell well. So, and Capcom's doing the same thing with Mega Man 10. What are your thoughts on this, that Capcom is still going to keep doing this as opposed to trying to evolve the character, which they have done in the past with Mega Man 7 and 8, but didn't really work, but they're still keeping it back to how Mega Man was?
Well, the basic premise of that is that Mega Man coming out as the original 8-bit, it shows that there is a humongous base for the original games that Capcom released. The nostalgia behind all of it was practically just the same. It's a fantastic build. It's a fantastic gameplay experience. Obviously very hard, so that's why they kicked up the challenge, because they knew new gen gamers are going to have like this entire critique of, oh, this game was too easy. Why did I waste my $10 or whatever on this game? I felt like this retro style being revived in a relation to anything else is that, it proved that you don't need high-end graphics like Bionic Commando Rearmed just to be a great game. I felt like that standed out the most out of the two games, and especially Mega Man 10 coming out with these weird robot masters. But I don't know, just to me it just felt and looks like it's going to be something you can look at and look back and go, you know what, that proves one point. A game does not have to have a high production quality, like team people putting like an orchestral music into it to make it a fantastic game.
Okay, that kind of addresses a point where when it was first released to people, when it was being developed, a lot of people said, oh, it's an 8-bit looking game. Obviously, they're not putting much development into it or enough money into it. It should look shiny. It should do this. It should do that. Sean, what's your opinion on those sort of comments that people said that it should be all super shiny HD?
Oh, when they first announced Mega Man 9, and said that it was going to have the NES look to it, I was all for it, because it's been a long time since that they've gone backwards, actually gone and just used something old instead of using HD, whatever it is. And it seemed to I'll get a lot of an audience, or whatever you want to call it. I haven't picked up 10 yet, because I'm still trying to get used to 9. That thing is hot as nails. But as for HD, you really don't need that. I mean, if the gameplay's there, you don't need it. I mean, this HD stuff, the majority of people don't, not a lot of people have HD still. So you can't, force that, until most of the country or whatever has it. I mean, what's the point?
It seems that Sega have kind of taken the same sort of leap as Capcom with Sonic 4, but they're choosing they want to keep it looking new and shiny, but they want to kind of go back to the old sensibilities of Sonic, because it's arguably Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the greatest achievements and failures of the video game industry, managing to sell a single system, yet producing not really any good games over the past 10 years. What are your opinions on Sonic 4 and the more kind of Sonic 2-esque kind of gameplay it's going to have?
Well, Sonic 4, I've seen like a little trailer of it, and I hope it's a little faster. I mean, from what I'm seeing of it, I hope that they speed this up a little bit, because it looks a little slow, and I don't know. I'm hoping that they don't destroy this, because there's going to be a lot of Sonic fans pissed off. I hope that they get this game off the ground, and it does well for them, because Sega's track record, they've had it pretty tough the past few years, and it's, if they can get this game to come out, do it right, I think that they can, move forward with more Sonics and stuff. But if they just throw it out there just to make money, then forget it. They're going to destroy themselves.
It's funny how you say that the trailer looked pretty slow. From what I understand and what people have said in the past, the original Sonic games were mainly about the platforming, where you'd complete a certain set of platforms and you would be rewarded with the speed. If Sonic 4 were to subscribe to that sort of policy, where you have to navigate through a set of platforms, like jump over some waterfalls, kill some fish, whatever, and then you get like a big boost of speed, like and filled with HD goodness, would that satisfy that kind of old school Sonic urge?
Well, if they were to utilize speed with retro, old-style platforming, I'd be all about it, honestly. I honestly would be all about it.
But we won't know until it comes out. It seems that Sonic is one of those things where they're going to keep it under wraps and we're all going to get hyped up. But will we be disappointed? That is the main thing. Right, I thought we would go right back now, because this is about retro revival and video game remakes back to like the original remakes, and we'll go back to like the 2600s or like Atari era. I was having this conversation earlier, and it seems that Atari was the great remaker of games, where you would have on the Atari 2600, you'd have like your Missile Command, your Asteroids, your Pac-Man. Then when the 5200 came out, you'd have your Missile Command, your Asteroids, and your Pac-Man. Then when the 7800 came out, you'd have your Asteroids, your Missile Command, and your Pac-Man. What are your opinions on like a company pretty much taking their own game, and when that new system of version of that console comes out, remaking that game with just better graphics, no other extra gameplay mechanics, like just the exact same game?
Well, that's like you said, making the same game over and over. Atari was notorious for that, and that's what killed them in the console business. They kept doing the same thing over and over and over again, and just making it better, just like graphically. That's not going to change anything. People want to see, new gameplay, new things to do. They don't want to keep revisiting the same thing over and over. And that's why we had that so-called video game crash back in 1983. And Nintendo came in to save the day, so to speak. But, but I mean, nowadays with that, I just kind of see that happening with some of the games that are getting released. You get this first-person shooter, and then you get this other one. It's basically all the same thing.
But Nintendo's arguably doing the same thing, because Zelda Twilight Princess is arguably kind of like an enhanced remake of Ocarina of Time.
Well, in that aspect, I agree with you, but it's also kind of the same thing, Link and all that kind of, revashes itself over and over and over. It's almost the same story, but not quite. It's a different type of theme. Like, it could be time, it could be he turns into a werewolf, he could turn into a gigantic flopping bunny rabbit, stuff like that. And it's I did not see it too much as being a remake of the 64 game, but, I do see some of the comparisons of him being in the treehouse and all that. That's about it.
On the subject of Nintendo also kind of remade their own games to revamp them in the Mario All-Stars collection, which I'm sure everybody's heard of, but for those who haven't, the Mario All-Stars collection was a collection of all the NES games, but they were all kind of revamped with 16-bit sprites, and they do all kind of look better than Super Mario World. And this was a pack-in for the Super Nintendo. Was this really like the best sort of game that Nintendo could pack in with their Super Nintendo?
Yes, I would agree so. It was, had all these great games in there, including the Lost Levels, and on top of that, they had a compilation where it came out the Super Mario World and with the compilation as well, so that was like a double whammy. And like a stack of good games, they're actually fun, you can actually save them, and it actually had, a reason to play them because you could go back to them whenever you could, so it kept reasons you keep coming back to the console.
With Mario All-Stars, I think they did a decent. Actually, it did very well from what I gathered. Everything was upgraded as far as I could tell. But yeah, I think that particular game, Mario 1, 2, 3, and then the Lost Levels. I think the reason why they released that was to package, a game that you never played before. It was only in Japan, so they figured, what? Why don't we give this to America? Wherever else that didn't receive it, and, just run with it. And that, I think that was the selling point mostly, was because of the Lost Levels.
Okay, moving from the old and back into the new. It seems that multiplayer gaming recently has really gathered speed with services like Xbox Live providing somewhat stable connections so people can play online. And Capcom and others have really grabbed hold of this with a remix of Super Puzzle Fighter HD and Street Fighter 2 HD remix. What are your opinions on being able to play these sort of games that were meant to be played in the arcades and played in the home, like on the Super Nintendo or on the Genesis, with someone beside you, being able to play them online versus somebody who you can't see and will most probably never punch them in the arm when they beat you?
Besides having a Hadouken thrown at my shoulder, I felt like it was actually pretty darn cool that you can actually play with people across the globe and, play it in locations other than sitting in a smelly, soggy little area known as the arcade where some fat guys are trying to steal your spot when you go to the bathroom. With this case, he's put the controller down, walk off, come back, and beat the shit out of someone again. It's a win-win situation.
Well, with the what do you call it? The first arcade versus online stuff like that. I barely went into the arcades when I was a kid, so I mean, I was happy that they, ported these games to home consoles because I mean, for example, like you said, Street Fighter 2 or even Mortal Kombat for that matter, when those games were ported over, I was like, wow, this is like cool. I don't have to go to the arcade or even try to get there anymore. I can play this at home, and playing online with people nowadays is even cooler because you can play with somebody like, say, from Taiwan, and they can be laughing their ass off in another language, and you know what? They won't get their ass kicked because you can't hear them anyway.
Okay, just a big broad question here. Do you guys think that developers are just milking their own franchises?
Can you beat that one more? Just kidding. Yes, I do believe some of them are because they're just running out of creative material, and it's kind of upsetting in a sense too. Is that you got brands like Mega Man, like we brought up before, that they're all. It was a fun game. It was a great innovation for its time, platformer-wise. So you can be able to switch your characters on the flies, like powers, and you're allowed to save the password and come back to these stages later on if you're stumped or frustrated or something, and you want to have sex with your girlfriend and actually have a social life. And it's just like a really fantastic thing that for the time. But now we have save features, we have all this and that. I think we need to keep certain parts of retro in the retro, and keep stuff that like Gears of War and all that where it is today as well. There's a fine line of crossing it too far. Like, for example, if you're gonna kill a cow that gives milk, you should at least make sure you have plans to make hamburger out of it. You know what I'm saying? Make something good out of the product before you decide to destroy it completely.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say the worst, the worst company for doing it is most probably Sega, because you can guarantee that every generation, Sega will bring out Sonic's Genesis Collection, Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, Sonic's Mega Ultra Super Duper Genesis Collection, and it's just getting to that point where Sega's gonna have nothing left to re-release. I mean, we've just had another Sonic collection on DS. Do we really need a collection of just the Sonic games on DS? We've already got them on the PSP, on the PS2, I know it was on the Dreamcast, but that was really shitty emulation. On the PS2, on the Xbox, on the Xbox 360, on the PS3. We don't need any more from Sega. Sean, what's your opinion on Sega re-releasing their games this way?
Well, like you said, Sega's constantly milking and milking and milking the same old game over and over. I mean, like Sonic, for example. Oh my God, I don't know. They can't seem to get it right with Sonic anymore. I think the last good game was Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast, and it just, I mean, I like Sonic Unleashed. It's okay, but it's not. It doesn't have that. I don't know. It doesn't have that Sonic feel to it. Nintendo's another one that is notorious for releasing the same damn game over and over, with Mario, Zelda, Metroid, and I know I'm going to get fanboys on my ass with this one, but too bad, so sad, I'm not your granddad. But, and Electronic Arts is another one, too, that does it with Madden. I mean, even though that's like a yearly thing, but still, how many Maddens do we need? I mean, seriously, give me a break.
Indeed. Danny, are these compilations more on the lines of insulting older gamers, or do you feel that maybe they're helping bring younger gamers who had never played these games and who will most probably never own an older system, showing them how great these older games were?
Alright, so basically what this does is a building tool. I consider it some as a good as a bad. People who do not like it, like us who actually have the games in our collections, like the cartridges or the CDs or whatever, it's sort of a, what the fuck is this even doing here? However, for those who are don't even know what the hell this is, never even experienced this before growing up, because they're all teeny bopper drama kids who come out of high school every day and want to try something because they're bored out of their fucking minds, yeah, compilations are great for them because they never really experience this. Those who, grown up with these games but don't have the consoles, I think that's good for them. people who actually have those type of new gen consoles don't have the old consoles, don't want to get the old consoles, and have kids, that would also be great too to show them, hey kids, look what I played. I played Sonic. I spin around in circles and did loop the loops and floop the floops and shoot the whoops all day. And kids are like, really? And you're like, really? Rhinoceroses? Yeah. Can I keep it forever? You know, that type of thing. It's just like a really interesting experience to see kids growing up getting to play their games again on another console. I think that's a nice thing, but also in the same sense, boring games, they release these compilations too. Like the first Sonic, don't get me wrong, is great, but if I have to see one more fucking port of Sonic for the Sega Genesis on another goddamn console, I think I'm gonna take my own life with a freaking cartridge of Shaq Fu.
I shit you not, I have a port of the original Sonic on my click wheel iPod, and it plays like you'd expect it to. There are no buttons on a click wheel iPod. You have to pretty much sit with your fingers on one side of the click wheel and the other side and the other side. It's just we will not even go there. Right, with the sort of like the Sega and the Sonic sort of compilations, you get like a physical disc medium. What do you think of Nintendo's Virtual Console, where you just download the game and that's it, and it is ROM in an emulator and nothing more? Because with the Genesis collections, they're on discs and you own them. It's like because one big thing about retro collecting is owning the game. It's like that is your prize, that is the thing you own, it's what you cherish. How can you cherish something that's a digital download?
At first I liked the Virtual Console, but then after a while I stopped buying for it because it's unless the game is like, for example, if the game is like crazy money on eBay, then I could see, getting a hold of it for like maybe, between $5 and $8. But with the WiiWare, that's something totally different. Like, they came out with the Castlevania, which I just picked up recently, and they got a new Blaster Master game. That type of stuff, I could see them doing that. But when it comes to the old stuff, I want to have the physical cartridge in my hand. I don't want to be dealing with, emulation too much unless I really have to.
Well, seeing that I basically run a show for Is It Worth Your Wii Points? Hello, YouTubers and all those who happen to nerdily watch. Alright, no. I feel like it's a good thing. Because I feel like most of the games out there that are really underlooked, it will not even see anybody of current gen unless you point it out to them. And by the time they see these games, they're probably most likely going to go up in collector's value reasons of being really expensive. Like you guessed it, like Judgment. What the heck was that game for the Super Nintendo's something Judgment? I reviewed it. It escaped my mind. But most games like, the Castlevania, Rondo of Blood series and all that, those games go for like good over $100-something. Good over. And those games are so expensive that why would you want to pay even more other than $10? I mean, you're not going to get anything out of it. You get no achievements. You ain't going to get any of that stuff out of it other than, playing and enjoying the experience like you originally did or how you wanted to. That's it. Virtual Console, I think it's fantastic that what they're doing with it, bringing back a lot of classic games out of the list of the games they could have picked out of the lot, exception, of course. I hopefully do not ever put Shaq Fu on there. If they do that, I'm quitting internet for life. But, again, I really felt that this game compilation stuff is crap. That's why I kind of skipped out on the Sonic Sega collection on the 360 or the PS3. I want nothing to do with it, honestly. I don't care if there's trophies or achievements for it. I don't care if I look like a big badass because I beat Sonic Collector for the 50th fucking time. I really don't care. Either way, I felt it was like a really fantastic thing that they're doing for the Wii. When it comes to the other consoles like 360 and PS3, I think they need to be focusing on what they're doing, like modern day consoles. That's what their whole goal was anyway. They weren't all about the, oh well, we're gonna hash out old games and make a monopoly off the old folks. No. Nintendo was about gameplay. They were about, keeping the classic consistency of a game. With the 360 and PS3, they were about innovation. There is no, now don't get me wrong, I love retro games. This is what this podcast is about. But I don't see any innovation of rehashing Sonic 1 for the 50th fucking time in my existence. I don't see it as innovation. I really do not.
Yeah, because we all want to get an achievement for like 10G because you completed Green Hill Zone in 30 seconds. Whoa!
Go!
Oh no! Yeah. Sean, it was great for you to mention Blaster Master, the remake on WiiWare, and that brings me on to the sort of like the next point, which was what sort of franchises would you like to see revived? For me personally, I would honestly like to see Sega bring back Alex Kidd, like their old mascot, but like not in like the really crappy Master System ones, because like there's so many Master System games. I'm talking about the one Master System game that was built into the machine that actually got a true sequel, and that was Alex the Kid in a Miracle World. It was kind of like Mario with big punchy and weapons and stuff. It was fun for the time, and it had its challenging bits, and like it's totally nostalgia and retro for me. But is like there any other like series, is that stuff that time has forgotten that you would like to see remade? So like with like new graphics, or even new graphics, like just like a whole new game, like with Mega Man, it's like a whole new game. Doesn't matter if the graphics are different at all.
Personally, I'd like to see Galvarius for the Sega Master System rehashed. Like that game right there, you know, the side scroller, then you had the whole entire Zelda style.
Yeah.
You had the shooter style to it as well, which people didn't really realize that about the dungeons. They were actually shooter based. I'd really like to see that game revived because it had so much concept and consistency to it. I do know there was a true sequel to the game. I never really got to play it because I think it was released as something I just couldn't read the translation to it too well. It was like English, but that right there, I'd like to see that game revived because it had so much gameplay mechanics to it. It would just blow your freaking mind. It was a Zelda game. It was a side scroller. That it was also a shooter game. It formulated so freaking well that it's just amazing.
And Sean, any like sort of like franchises you'd like to see revisited? Anything that maybe Nintendo or Sega have let drop off in the past that you'd like to see them to pick up again and try to squeeze some money out of for the love and nostalgia of its fans?
Festus Quest. I'm just kidding. I know everybody. Tyson 716. He's throwing up right now. Now, anyway, let me see. God, Monster Party. That is so underrated. I wish they would re-release that. Update it a little bit. Come out. I'd pick it up in a heartbeat.
Oh God.
No. Let him have his opinion.
No. I mean, I like the game. It's just the game fighting a fucking shrimp, though. It just brought me back to. I'm hungry now. Thank you, Sean. I want shrimp.
Well, take the shrimp out. Just take the shrimp out. I mean, some of the enemies were stupid. I agree, but I mean,
when
I
most
want
of
the shrimp now. I'm hungry. Fried shrimp. Go.
Were most of the sprites redrawn for the American release of Monster Party anyway? Would you prefer to see like a re-release of the original Japanese version with its unaltered sprites?
Something, I never played the original Japanese one. I'll have to go play that if it's any better.
It's just something that I heard. It might be. I'm sure it's Monster Party because apparently if I remember reading correctly, a lot of things in the game just don't make sense because of what was changed about the game.
Yeah. Actually, if they could release it originally as it was intended, sure. Yeah, go for it.
Danny has a question from a listener. If you would like to read it.
That is correct. Okay, this of course is from Noobtastic Gaming from YouTube, and he writes.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, just read it. Fuck it. Hold on. But I'm very bad at reading, so I'll hand this over to Super Dan.
He writes. Well, I think the most I argue with people about retro versus new games is gameplay value. How modern games focus so much in multiplayer, which, yeah, is fun, but campaigns are short and even sucky, and I believe is why old titles, even as a download, I'd love to see them as hard media, are making a comeback. Because the games have replay value compared to new games. Not much a question, but my opinion on that. Smiley face. Now a question would be related to how I think about it. Why developers don't put more effort and give us an oldie as hard media, as one game, or a compilation of many. I'd like that. It's kind of like, he's kind of like asking, would we like to see like maybe Bionic Commando Rearmed, Mega Man 9, and like 1942 Joint Strike on a disc, a real disc, as opposed to a digital download? They would get a greater medium from that. And I think, honestly, if they were to do that, in my opinion, people would buy it more because, if I remember correctly, Konami's doing that with their games. You can get like Castlevania Symphony of the Night and a few others on a disc, like from Walmart. And Danny, what's your opinion on this? This is like a really interesting point.
I felt like it was a pretty damn good point there. If it was a hard disc or a hard copy, I think would actually be value-wise. A lot of collectors would want to grab it. People who have grew up with these games, you kind of sold it off to somebody or for crack or whatever the hell their addiction was back in the day. It was a thing that would be good practically in the long run.
especially games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, like stuff that on its original format, like on the Sega Saturn and on the PS1, seems to go for an absolute whorish amount. It's like I'd like to see Konami do a re-release of Snatcher with an English translation of Police Notes on one disc. Imagine how awesome that would be. Danny, wouldn't you just when your head just explode?
Well, when it comes to Snatcher for the Sega CD, I was not really a big fan of that game, honestly.
Sigh, sigh, sigh. What was it about the game you didn't like? Because it seems to be a lot of people want this game re-released. Because Kojima, I know he doesn't really take part in it, but like the first Metal Gear Solid was released, and Metal Gear Solids 2, 3, and 4 are pretty much recent games, so they don't really need re-releasing. But Snatcher in particular is a game, and Police Notes to a degree as well, it's a game that a lot of people seem to think that it should be re-released so that more people can get to play it. It has like all the Kojima like trademarks, 20-30 minute long cutscenes that you really can't skip, and it has like an in-depth sort of like Hollywood based story. The story has not aged at all. It's still like a Blade Runner-esque kind of story. What was it about the game that you really sort of like didn't gel with you?
I didn't have cookies.
Fuck's sake, Danny.
I couldn't help but shove me a Girl Scout cookie. It was like crack. I'm weak. Alright. What didn't stick to me with the game was that what didn't stick to me as well is that the game, it just bored the hell out of me. I mean, I'm into adventure games like every other Joe and all that, but it just bores the hell out of me. Like the combat sequences, we have to, turn it up, move the directional pad and all that to shoot at something. Again, that was kind of boring too. I mean, yeah, it's sort of like a quick time kind of thing where flick, 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 flick. But after a while, it kind of felt boring to me. The story mode for it as well, I'd rather watch Blade Runner the movie.
Could you see something like those fight events be something that could translate maybe over to the DS with a touchscreen?
Well, my DS is almost on its way out. No, not really. It's still in good condition. But I could not see myself or anyone else with big hands smacking their DS screens with that stylus. I mean, it's one of those type of things where you just don't... I mean, yeah, for people who are into that, that'd be a fantastic thing. I couldn't do it, though. I couldn't touch it myself because I just don't like games like that with the DS.
Alrighty, right, I think that's it for this week. This week's online seller for your good retro goodness is JapaneseRetroGames.com. They specialize in Sega-type goods, like old Sega games, especially from like Japan. It's an import store. You will not find pretty much cheaper prices anywhere. They are like the cheapest you can go. So that's www.JapaneseRetroVideoGames.com. That's one word. And we'll see you next week. Everybody, say goodbye.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Review Tech USA and rub my nipples. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Come on, Danny, let's